Mercedes was a student with us this summer, an Erasmus student, and she did great research on improving the economic monitoring of food forests. So, Mercedes, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Mercedes. I started studying environmental sciences in Lüneburg at the Leuphana University. And during my bachelor degree, I had a seminar about sustainable food forests. And so I also wrote my bachelor thesis about the economic side of food forests. And this is how I got attracted to the topic. And I was really interested to get to know the Netherlands, or the community in the Netherlands of food forests. So I decided to make an Erasmus internship at Food from the Forest. I worked with you together and Jürgen Krüth from the Wageningen University. And my main research topic was the economic side and the harvesting part of food forests during my internship. I can share my screen and show you a bit about my research. The main topic was the measurement of the harvest in the food forest, looking at the economic monitoring of food forests. And my whole internship took from the 15th of May to the 15th of August, so doing the 3 summer months.
Yes.
And I wanted to introduce the topic and then go through my process. I used the design thinking process. I will go into that in detail later and then summarize it and make a short outlook of what Food from the Forest is working at the moment with my result. And a design thinking process is divided into 5 parts. First, understanding, then observe, then define, then ideate, and then prototype and test. And during my research, I only took a deeper look in the first 4 parts because of time. Only 3 months, so I didn't have enough time to look at the 5th and the 6th part in detail. So first I wanted to understand what are your questions and the questions of the other food forest owners and the key problem frame. And Marike's main question was, how can we help the food forest owners measure their harvest? And I had some Zoom calls with Jürgen and Marike, and I also did some literature research and some research on the internet about the topic in general to understand. Okay, so the first part of the design thinking process was to understand what is my research question. And Marike has observed before that food forest owners have problems with measuring their harvest. So she asked about how to help the food forest owners measuring their harvest. And also the food forest owners confirmed that they have problems with that. And so I did some literature research and some internet research on how harvest measurement can be possible and what are the main obstacles regarding that question. And during my literature research, I also took a look in the nature's contribution to people or ecosystem services of food forests, because that is kind of the base in which the harvest is inside. And there are 3 main components or 3 main topics, themes a food forest can have. So first, they can have a focus on experience or social and culture, ecosystem services, and or biodiversity and ecology, and or production and economy. And in each of these topics, of course, a food forest can also have a combination of all of them, or on only 2 of them, or have a focus on one of them. But in general, each of these topics or focuses of a food forest needs an own design or own management method. And in each of them, we harvest different things. Of course, when we harvest more experience, or we harvest biodiversity or ecological services, or what is my research topic, harvest, production, harvest, the yield at the end.
But you go very quickly, these 3 types. How did you come up with them? How did you figure out that these were the 3 types of food forest?
In general, they are also on your website. So from Food from the Forest have already did research on it, and these 3 topics were mentioned often, and also in the general scientific literature about food forest, the food forests were often divided into these different topics.
Yeah, because actually on our website we have 4 types, but you combined biodiversity and we have biodiversity, recreation, production, and gastronomy. And here you say production and economy is both gastronomy and production, and then biodiversity and ecology is one type, and experience and social, that's the recreational parts of the food forest.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's our 4 types divide here into 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And gastronomy can also maybe have a focus on experience. For example, you could also have a gastronomy for weddings or something. Then it's more into the experience part.
Yeah, it can be both. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it can be both, and it can also be looked more into detail. So yeah, these 3 types were more like the main types which were everywhere I read about food forests.
I liked it, so it's a good division. So yeah, the production economy is really about selling food. The experience part is really about selling experiences, and the biodiversity part is actually not about selling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay, thank you. And then you have different types of yields, different types of management, and different types of design being part of these different methods.
Yeah. And in general, what I ask myself is also how can these different types contribute to sustainable transformation? So all of them contribute to the sustainable transformation of our food system. And what is another component which is in food forests really special is the component of time, because in food forests we need to rethink our how we experience time, because food forests always take some time to really be established and to really produce these different kinds of harvest. Yeah.
Yes.
So that was the main frame I came up with after the understanding phase of the design thinking process. And we will come back to that later shortly.
Okay.
And yeah, the second part is the observation part. So to verify my assumptions from the understanding part, and also to get to know the stakeholders and the target group, so the food forest owners. And during that phase, my main method was doing semi-structured interviews. So I visited 6 food forests. You can see here on the left side the map. The green one I haven't visited, but I did an interview with them because I didn't have time to visit them during these 3 months. And in general, overall, I did 11 interviews. So I did not only interview food forest owners, but also some theoretical experts. So people from university, or also a young woman who's doing a PhD about food forests. And yeah, so this was my method. And I want to give you a short insight of what I could experience. So I observed during or before the interviews. I also took part in some tours, and I observed some harvesting of people doing the tours. You can see it here. And I also harvested in bigger style. So on the right side, you can see how I harvested Tuna sinensis in Ketelbrück. And on the left side, you can see some harvest of, what is the name again?
Walgaard, I think.
Yeah, the Walgaard and Molteke, Molteke.
It was okay. Yes. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So a bit more professional than just doing tours. So really harvesting bigger amounts. And yeah, I also have here a small video. I don't know if it can be played. So here you can see how harvesting in Ketelbrück looks like. It is a really dense food forest, and yeah, thought it would be nice to see that.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was my observation phase. And then I tried to combine the first 2 phases, so understanding and observation, and to create out of that a common level of knowledge. So the theoretical part of the understanding phase and the more practical part of the observation phase and the interviews. And for that, I used the prototype, no, not prototype, but persona method. So I tried to do 3 different kinds of persona based on the 3 different kinds of food forest, which I observed and understood. And I don't want to go into every persona in detail, but you can see here that I try to get more personal connection to the food forest owners, because I want to solve the question on what do the food forest owner need to harvest, to measure their harvest, and to get to know the background of the people better. I use this method to really get in connection with these people and to understand their motivation, understand their frustration, and why they could or why they would measure their harvest, and what is the barrier for them to not do that. But in general, I identified 3 personas, and these 3 personas were kind of a combination of my understanding phase and my observation phase. And these 3 personas were the social cultural experiences, the ecological biodiversity, and also the economic production. So for each of these 3 types, I have 1 persona.
Yeah.
And you can see here again, it is also part of the 3 dimensions of sustainability. So we have here a really strong connection to the sustainable transformation. So each of these personas could represent one of the 3 dimensions: the economic side, the societal side, and the ecological side of sustainable transformation. And the big obstacle or difficulty now is to make like one thing to improve, to help them to harvest, to measure their harvest. And I think it's not possible to only make like one solution, but there's different things how we can engage people, because each of these personas has their own motivation, and in general these are just personas and not like really individuals, not like the real food forest owners, which are most of the time a combination of different personas. Is that understandable?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm very curious. What is your solution, or were your solutions?
And that's the 4th part, to ideate, so to make ideas and to create solutions.
Yeah.
And that was a part of putting the theory into practice. And there's also on the Food from the Forest website a blog post about one idea, but
Yeah.
there are several more ideas which I want to shortly introduce to you. And in my report, you can look into detail on what these ideas are based on, and into detail how these ideas could be implemented someday, or how to, it is just an idea, and I think it's interesting to think about them and to also think with more people and in groups together about these ideas. So first of all, that was also the main frame of the internship, the economic test. And in general, I have made some suggestions about the questions and the structure. So to divide the economic test into 3 parts, to help the food forest owners more to understand the economic test, and also to make it in general shorter and more adaptable to the diverse cases. And I think that's also for now detailed enough. If you're really interested in looking more into the details on how I restructured the questions and why I restructured the questions, look into the report. And in general, I think it's really important to highlight that the food forest owners need a kind of a reward to fill this out. And I brainstormed a bit about the rewards which are possible, and in general knowledge, I think it's really good, and a really also low barrier for Food from the Forest to implement, so to put in more knowledge into the test. So for example, if you fill out something about a tree, then you can click on the tree and you can find more information about the tree. So a small reward for the food forest owners to filling out the test. Then also consulting, funding, and direct support. These are higher barriers for Food from the Forest because it needs more work to implement that in the test. This is why it is not bold. But to combine it with bookkeeping platform can also be a reward for the food forest owners. So
Yeah.
most of the food forest owners have also mentioned during the interviews that they don't like so much to work online and to do bureaucratic stuff. And if they get help with their bookkeeping by filling out the economic test, that's helping them and is a reward for filling that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I have also some ideas on on-site support. For example, simply a scale.
Yeah.
This is also what my blog post was about. So implementing, then yeah, first we need to construct, of course, a scale and how, and then after that implement it on the sites. And the main idea is that also the scale is connected directly to the tool. So if a food forest owner is measuring their harvest, that it will directly be put into the economic test. Yeah, and then some food forest owners also mentioned that would be nice to measure not each item or each fruit, but to measure like crates. And if you have a specific set of crates, then it's easier for the food forest owners to do the measuring.
Yeah.
And the third
The
one
idea
is,
would then be that you measure one crate full of the produce, and then you know how much kilo is in that crate, and then you assume if you have 8 of them, that will be 8 times the same amount of kilos. That's yeah, okay.
and then you have less time to, or you don't need to put so much time in measuring and putting it on
Yeah,
scales, but you can just count the crates and then you have the
yeah,
sum of your harvest. Yeah.
yeah,
And then another possibility was mentioned also in the interviews to have really employed harvesters, because an obstacle is also to work with volunteers, because most of the volunteers don't really know about food forests in detail and have not like really good knowledge about it. So it's more work for food forest owners to work with volunteers. And if you would have like really employed, educated harvesters, that would be a help for the food forest owners doing the harvest process and then also doing the measuring process.
yeah,
And the third thing, which was completely new for me and really interesting, I think, too, is to use robots and machines doing the harvesting part.
yeah.
So having robots and machines.
Yes, but this is also very new still. That's not it's very experimental. That they're
Yeah.
just being thought about, not even developed at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But there are already some companies who are trying to establish robots and machines for food forests, and
yeah,
but it's really in the beginning, so there's no nothing on the field yet, nothing in practice.
yeah,
Yeah. And the third main part is networking. So in general, what Food from the Forest is already doing a lot, doing workshops, educating people, yeah, and design and management consulting. As I presented in the beginning, each of these three focuses, so the economic focus, the ecological focus, or the social focus, all of them need a special design, a special management, and to consult about what kind of design is fitting to your purpose and what kind of managing does your purpose need to get the harvest out you want. And I think until now, how I experienced it so far, there's a lot of education about the basics of food forest. So what is a food forest and how can we design a food forest, and to develop also a consulting which goes more into detail and which is more looking at really the harvesting and the goal part of a food forest.
yeah,
Yeah. And also networking and taking care of the food forest. So connecting people together and to just get an exchange about how to take care of a food forest over the time, and after the establishment of a food forest. So connect food forest owners which have a food forest since some years, and to support them during the different years. As I mentioned in the beginning, time is a big component of food forests, and to also stay in contact with food forest owners who already have planted their food forest and who already are gaining some yield, and to care for these food forest owners
Yeah.
and food forests. Yeah. And yeah, the fourth part is communication in social media. So I already mentioned the blog post on the Food from the Forest side, but also just writing remembering emails to the crowd, and something like we do right now, some educational videos. So also lower barriers where people are not forced to go to a workshop, but they can also do it from home by looking at videos, by looking at blog posts, by just checking Facebook or Instagram and educating on a yeah lower scale on a shallow level.
Yeah, what is the word you're looking for? A low-key educational group of videos. That's actually what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And especially about economical parts of a food forest, or do you
Mhm.
think also about other parts of a food forest?
Yeah, regarding to my research, of course, the
Yeah,
economic side of food forest.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but you have these three personas, and some people are just busy with biodiversity, so they're not that interested in the economical side. But the way you present it, there's people busy with harvesting kilos, and there's people busy with managing a recreational or human activity founded food forest. And do you also want to measure that kind of harvests more easily?
Um, Yeah, I think in general, all kind of harvest contribute to our data. So even if you have just a small backyard food forest and you measure your harvest there and you type it into the economic test, it will help to improve our data,
Yeah,
because the more data you have, the better the tool is. And of course, if you have a big scale food forest, which has a focus on economic production, um, you have more data. But also the small scale food forests in the backyards, which are often older now than the big
yeah,
scale, can contribute with their data.
yeah, yeah. And it's also
Yeah.
a valid kind of
And
return. It's not only food we produce in food forests, it's also experiences and a nice time or an excursion or a cooking workshop. All that kind of revenues are also relevant for food forest owners and for food forestry as a movement, I think.
yeah, and also the ecological part. So until now, we only talked about the economic test, but food has also this ecological test, and also their small scale food forest can contribute with how the biodiversity is increasing, how much
Yeah,
carbon has been stored, and this helps to improve our knowledge about food forest and to monitor them, because there are a lot out there, especially in the Netherlands, I guess. And yeah, it helps the scientific community to um, yeah, to gain knowledge. And then at the end, that helps to do policy for food forests
yeah.
all over Europe and the world. Yeah.
Okay. So you had a lot of ideas. Most of them are not ready to execute, of course, but some of them are. We can improve the test itself next year. And we could work with some food forest about this idea with these crates and well, but the scale is and maybe even the bookkeeping. But that's something for next year. So thank you for all the ideas, and all this thing about prototyping and testing that appeared very quickly to be out of scope for your 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And also, I think for that we need, or I think it's a thing needed to be done by a team or by a network or by a community, and not by one person in an internship for summer months.
yeah.
Um,
It also needs more budget. That's
yes.
that's uh, that's for sure. Yeah. But we
Yeah.
will work on that, and therefore your research as a foundation for that budget to come is very interesting. And yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you. And yeah, like a short outlook, how I would like to use a budget maybe. If I would have some, I would like to do some focus groups with people who are interested in working on that on that topic further. And for example, one could do a focus group looking at those 4 topics, so the economic test, the scale, the consult, and educational video. So now I took from each of the 4 categories one example, and then just brainstorm with the people. So what improvement ideas do you have regarding that and that topic, and what is interesting you the most? And so also to see what is, from all the ideas I presented, the most interesting idea for the community, for the food forest owners. What do they need? Because yeah, it is important to stay in contact with the people who are doing the practice and who yeah, they know the best what they need, and they know the best how we can support them. I just suggested underneath this the ideas how to organize these focus groups, but I think it's also easier to look that into the report again if somebody's interested in that. This is just a short summary and a short outlook. So on the left side, you can see the main questions I ask, and I'm still asking myself. So from where on should a food forest start to measure the harvest, and what is the economical sustainable harvest in general? Who harvests and who measures the harvest, and which tools are used during harvesting, and how is the yield measured already? So all these questions you can find in my report and read about the answers. And doing my research, I had contact to mainly food from the forest and some food forest owners or the farmers. And what is missing still is the governmental aspect. So looking at the political level. And also one big question which goes into that research is the question about selling and pricing. So how can we sell these products? Which prices shall we take on these products? And yeah, the base of the harvest is, as I mentioned before, the management and the design, and how we can manage a food forest is still under research and needs to be researched more, and how to design a economical, sustainable food forest in general. And on the right side, you see a short cycle. And this also represents that harvest is inside, it's one topic which is connected to others. So you have the harvest, you want to measure it. Out of the measurement, you can make a price setting, and these will be like the products will be bought, and this increases the interest on the harvest. So it is a cycle. And when looking at the harvest, we cannot only look at the harvest without looking also at all the other components which are related to it.
Yeah, but don't you think you've divided food forest in 3 types, but you also have sizes. You know, if you have to sell like 16 boxes of apples, that's something different than when you have to sell a couple of thousands of kilos, you know. So the sell and the pricing is different for every size of the food forest. There's not one size that fits all, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you concluded that too. Okay.
Yeah, I would totally agree to that. And that is also something which then goes like again in this pricing. And yeah, of course, if you have a small food forest, maybe your prices will be higher because you don't have so much you can sell than in comparison to big scale food forest, which produces a lot more of one thing. Yeah. And then sometimes food forests are only producing for themselves. So just for feeding the people on the tour, or feeding them, the food forest owners. Yeah.
Or the birds, you know, that kind.
Or the birds, yeah,
Well,
of course.
to summarize your research, you ended with a couple of ideas with some propositions for further piloting and developing. And is this your last sheet, or did you have another sheet?
I have this.
Yes, thank you for your attention sheet. Great.
Yeah.
Well, Mercedes, thank you very much for this explanation. And let's hope a lot of people come to you and have read the report and seen the presentation, and will help us and you with further development of this economic tool.
Yeah, thank you, Marike, for your time and the possibility to present my results here and at the conference.